protests and anthems. Yes, we chanting a movement of people. It's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the poor where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. When you and God in time are best aligned.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
How can I be a better father, son, a better grandson, honoring Fannie Lou's and the Fred Hamptons, the Harriets, the chariots that carry us to various areas that marry us to progress. Yeah, we the harvest, the lovely days and midnight marauders, even through charges and days of darkness. No, we in the hands of the greatest artists. I see it in the waters, I see it in our daughters. They could be bridges that know no borders. For so long, them folk try to ignore us. So we at the ballot boxes to vote for us. Peace to Stacey and the people of Georgia. Galvanized so that we can move forward. Steps are ordered with the presence of mind. Everything's more beautiful in time.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, your host and White House correspondent. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, DRNIIQ, and I pop right on up fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. And there we are for your listening pleasure. Last but not least, subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast powered by KBLA Talk 1580, the only Black-owned and operated talk station west of the Mississippi. And there we are for your listening pleasure. Now, listen, in addition to all of that, I want to make sure that you know about our KBLA Talk 1580 4th anniversary events, because guess what? They are fast approaching, and seating at all 4 of our special events is getting tight, y'all. Have you registered at our KBLA1580.com website? Well, if not, let me encourage you to stop what you're doing and just get it done. It's our 4th anniversary, and we want to celebrate with you. So if you're planning to join us for our 4th anniversary celebration and barbecue on Juneteenth, we're asking everyone to bring a food gift card of any amount for the victims of the Altadena fire. Grocery store chain, a restaurant, whatever you got, we are grateful for whatever you bring to help these families that are still displaced by the wildfire. So go ahead and do it. Go to our KBLA1580.com website right now and sign up for the events that you plan to attend. Remember, all of our anniversary events are free, but seating is limited. And so thanks in advance for registering. Now it's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. It's time for your national news roundup. And kicking us off, The Guardian is reporting that the suspect in the shootings of Minnesota lawmakers has been caught and charged with murder. The man suspected of opening fire on 2 Minnesota legislators and their spouses on June 14th, killing 1 legislator and her husband, is set to appear in court, was set to appear actually this afternoon, charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 of attempted murder. Vance Bolter, 57, is charged with fatally shooting the Democratic State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark, at their residence early on Saturday. Bolter is also accused of shooting the state senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette at their home, seriously injuring them. He was booked in the Hennepin County Jail in Minneapolis shortly after 1 a.m. this morning, ending a 2-day search that Mark Bruley, the Brooklyn Park Police Chief, called the largest manhunt in the state's history. Moving from Minnesota to California, where a federal judge is weighing turning LA City's homelessness program over to a receiver. Yeah, over 2 weeks. A lot of this conversation has been happening. U.S. District Judge David O. Carter has ordered the parties involved with this case to file written briefs by Tuesday, that's tomorrow, and then will rule on the petition by a group of business owners, property owners, and residents asking him to appoint a receiver over the roughly $1 billion the city spends addressing homelessness each year. The LA Times is reporting that in a show of how far it will go to protect its authority, the city brought in the heavyweight law firm Gibson Dunn to take over for in-house attorneys who handled the 5-year-old case. The firm fielded a 7-lawyer team who argued before the U.S. Supreme Court on behalf of the city of Grants Pass and won the decision that reopened the door to citing and arresting homeless people for illegal camping. So a lot of folks paying extra close attention to this. We know that not long ago, the people of Los Angeles passed a bond to invest even more in addressing some of the root causes of homelessness in the city and county of Los Angeles. And so we'll be keeping you posted on this, but a very interesting article published earlier today in the New York Times. Speaking of LA, protests are slow in LA as Trump vows to expand immigration raids. The LA Times is reporting that President Trump vowed to expand immigration enforcement actions in major Democrat-controlled cities, including LA. Demonstrations eased on Sunday in downtown LA with a few reported problems, but all eyes right now are on the Ninth Circuit, which is expected to rule on California's bid to stop the Trump deployment of National Guard troops in LA as early as tomorrow. Immigration sweeps continued across the region over the weekend. I saw some social media posts of military tanks in Compton and military personnel in Compton really moving forward with these ICE raids. And so when we come forward, we are going to get up to date and up to speed on the latest headlines related to these mass deportation efforts, these ICE raids that are expected to only increase in the days ahead. We'll be joined with Allen Orr, our resident immigrant rights attorney and contributor. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Allen Orr when we come forward.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. You ready?
Somebody make some noise in this joint.
KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates its 4th anniversary this year on Juneteenth.
Here we go again.
Hard to believe 4 years has gone by so fast.
Oh my God.
But here we are, still standing, still loving and serving our people as best we can.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
To celebrate our 4th anniversary, we have 4 big events, and you're invited to all of them.
She got a lot to say. Let's do this.
Let's get it on.
On Wednesday, June 18th, we go live on C-SPAN for the 2nd consecutive year with our Climate Justice plus Black Health Symposium. Tavis Smiley will moderate an all-star panel of thinkers and influencers as we continue our vitally important climate justice work.
Hey, Tavis Smiley, call the bomb.
On Thursday, June 19th, you're invited to join us as we celebrate Juneteenth and our 4th anniversary. There will be plenty of food, fun, great music, good vibes, and all of your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts will be there.
Yeah, man.
With the beat. On Saturday, June 21st, there are 2 big events you're invited to attend.
I can't wait to hear it.
This year, KBLA Talk 1580 continues its annual partnership with the Empowerment Congress for a community celebration and dialogue to educate, engage, and empower. This year's theme is resilience in the face of chaos.
Can't wait to see what's up next.
Y'all ain't ready for this.
And new this year is our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium, moderated by Dominique DePrima, with a luncheon to follow. Dominique will be leading a dialogue with some of the most impactful Black women leaders in Los Angeles, and you're invited to join.
This is it.
All of these events are free, but seating is limited, so you must register in advance at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can find all the details you need about each event.
Check
it out.
It's our 4th anniversary, and we would love to celebrate it with you.
I love you guys so much. There's nothing you can do about it.
We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The only black talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
Thank you for having our black.
Happy anniversary, KBLA.
We love you. Love you.
Now at Verizon, we have some big news for your peace of mind. For all our customers, existing and new, we're locking in low prices for 3 years guaranteed on My Plan and My Home. That's future you peace of mind. And everyone can save on a brand new phone on My Plan when you trade in any phone from one of our top brands. That's new phone peace of mind. Because at Verizon, whether you're already a customer or you're just joining us, we got you. Visit Verizon today. Price guarantee applies to then current base monthly rate. Additional terms and conditions apply for all offers.
Thy ticket, Lady Jennifer of Coolidge.
Well, many thanks, good sir. Hereeth my Discover card.
They accept Discover at Renaissance fairs?
Yeah, they do here. Discover is accepted at the places I love to shop. Getteth with the times.
With the times? You're playing the lute.
Yeah, and it sounds pretty good, right?
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Hit me!
National news, The Consequence. Informed opinion. And analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Of a cabinet secretary. That's what happened. And you saw the response. Everybody's seen the video. It wasn't about me, right? If that's how this administration responds to a senator with a question, don't just imagine what they're capable of, but what they are doing when the cameras are not there to people without a title like United States Senator, that cruel, disrespectful treatment of so many people who deserve much better.
To A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Corte. And just a moment ago, you were listening to California Senator Alex Padilla on Face the Nation just this past Sunday, just yesterday. We're now joined with Allen Orr, who's the founder of Orr Immigration Law Firm. He's our resident immigrant rights contributor. Allen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Did you have a chance to catch that clip of?
I did.
Senator Padilla on Face the Nation. Any reaction to that?
I mean, I think so. They're very separate conversations that are happening, and I think that his is an isolated one with regard to that incident, and sort of saying, I mean, it's not surprising to Black people that what sometimes happens when you're not on camera is a little bit more drastic than what happens when you're on camera. And if you're willing to do this on camera, then we know what's happening when you're not on camera. So, and the conversation that arose in him was, someone from the federal government coming to a state and putting down the state representatives in front of the state people, which I think, isn't a federal. I mean, we have an issue right now with federalism and sort of working together as the United States, especially on this immigration issue, because the federal government regulates immigration and they don't give any power to the states. And if they were to give power to the states, things might look a little bit differently. I mean, for example, in Canada, each province has its own right to sort of handle its own migration, which sort of changes the way migration is done when it's sort of done at a local level. So they can decide if they need workers, if they don't need workers, or who gets migrated in and who doesn't. But when the federal government has failed to do any immigration reform, Congress hasn't done any in 30 years, and then Republican, Democrat, and then you come in and you say, oh my God, one person caused all this problem, when it's 30 years of everybody causing the problem. And then you say, oh, it's this state who's the biggest, it's the 4th biggest economy in the world. It just becomes super problematic in the conversation.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people still, sort of shocked with what happened to Senator Padilla. But I mean, the issues of the day, still loom large, right? Where you have the federal government that right now is in LA, is in so many cities across the country conducting these ICE raids with assistance from the National Guard that's been federalized. Tomorrow is supposed to be a big decision from the circuit court judge, from the appeals court. Yeah. Any predictions?
I think the lower cut. If you read what the court said about the actions of the National Guard and the history of this country, I can't see how that court can find anything different. I think the court gave the federal government enough runway and this weekend to sort of retreat, but they did not. So there's a couple of things that I think I want to say in the mix of things, especially since we're talking to a Black audience. It is odd to me. So you might not know every person in the House of Representatives. I get that. There's over 400 of them. There are 100 senators. And if you don't know the senators from some of the largest states, especially when they're the first of whatever it is from that state, be it Hispanic, Black, gay, woman, whatever it is in their iconic moment. But when that senator replaced the last vice president of the United States, and then you claim you don't know who they are, and no one in the room recognizes who they are, either you're lying to me or you're not the person I need representing me, because clearly you don't take this serious.
I'm going to go line with me for 500.
All right. So, I mean, let's have that moment. The second thing in this moment we want to talk about is that I think as Black people, we really need to really push hard is the cost, because it's all this stuff about supposed to be cost efficiency and all these things that are sort of going through. But we discovered today that ICE they're at the end of their budget. It's a quarter of their year, and they're already at the end of their budget. So if Congress doesn't move, they don't have any more money. So not only are these sort of now targeted at blue cities, because that's the email that came out last night that he was going to sort of go against the cities that had all these no king raids and all these blue states to sort of, I guess, as Secretary Noem said, to change them from socialism, which is sort of weird to say in that way. But it's sort of this targeted effect. It's costing a lot of money to have 12 people, 12 officers who generally make from $60,000 to $100,000 a year, pick up farm worker who is making $30,000 to $40,000 a year picking your grapes. So in all of those occasions where they're sort of politicizing and saying, "Oh man, look at these 7 officers catching that student walking down the street," that's expensive, and that's not a good use of their time or money, and that shows in the budget, because the budget reflects your values. And now they're going to ask Congress for more money to throw in a hole that's just only going to hurt us more.
Yeah, I mean, for people who are not as familiar with this, Axios also reporting that ICE is already $1 billion over budget by one estimate. What other agency gets to be over budget by $1 billion? And also, let's reconcile this. Isn't this the same president who, when he was candidate Trump, said that, we're going to run government like a business, right? And I'm the best businessman and the best deal maker in the world. Make this make sense, right? How can you be the best businessman in the world and one of the agencies under your watch within the first 150 days or so of your presidency is already over budget by an estimated $1 billion?
Yeah. So they're already past it. Yeah. So there you go. So if Congress doesn't move quickly, a lot of the things that they have will sort of fall to the wayside. And part of what happens to that money, right? So remember, I mean, so they only had 44,000 beds. They have 55,000 people that they're housing in these 44,000 beds. So that's already a human rights, civil rights violation that needs to be adjusted, because I'm not sure how you can have that many people in these over spaces. But forget that point. Most of those places are private institutions. So they're funneling money back to all of these business owners. So it's just a wash through of our federal tax dollars to these private companies.
That's right. That's right. And also, this so-called big, beautiful bill, this is just giving us another reason to not pass that bill. We've been talking for weeks and weeks and weeks about the projected cuts to programs like Medicaid. We talked about the projected cuts to the U.S. Department of Education, which impacts people who have student loan debt, and we could go down the list. But to me, this adds, another very big reason why folks should not pass this bill as is. Do you think Democrats see it that way and are prepared to integrate this kind of messaging into their call to scuttle this bill?
So I think that, well, let's be honest, we're in a space where there's a lot of things what we call Democrat, and the consensus is not there. And they have failed to form any policy regarding immigration in general across the board for their choices, right? They made bad choices. Either the choices where they didn't want to address the border, or they played down the border, or they didn't have a conversation or knew what to say with regards to it. And still, in the midst of people being arrested and people protesting on the street, the Democratic platform still doesn't have anything, nothing from Ken Martin, nothing from Hakeem Jeffries other than, civil rights and due process and habeas. All those things, great. Those are principles in the Constitution. That's not a platform for the Democratic Party. There are literally thousands of immigration lawyers, including myself, who would be willing to help the Democratic Party say, this is how you go forward and say, we will follow the law, and we also will do this in a respectful way that makes sense. We'll do it like Obama did it. He deported the most people ever, and you never saw Gestapo on the street. There are tons of ways to phrase the conversation to make it about money and other things, and the party has failed to do it. So it's challenging for me right now, especially in this moment where you have Weingarten leaving the DNC and Ken Martin being harmed by that, and Malcolm Kenyatta coming in, which I think has perfect energy, and he's going to set a great platform, I hope. But, young, he's still got to take his shot at this moment. And Democrats in disarray because they don't know what to say about immigration. Mm-hmm. They don't know how to talk about immigration other than saying, oh, that's bad. Well, that's bad is not a policy issue, right?
But even given the fact that, when Biden was president, there was a bipartisan immigration bill.
Yes.
That seemed like it was on the cusp of being able to make it over the finish line. And there were reports that then candidate Trump was working the phones, calling Republicans, saying, don't vote for this, don't give Biden the win. And so why aren't Democrats, sort of reintroducing that bill that just less than a year ago, had bipartisan support?
So I think for the different fringes of the left party, I was not a supporter of that bill. That had a large enforcement only part of the bill. Enforcement only does not work. So it was, once again, it is not as big a check as the Big Beautiful Bill, but it had some problems. And many of the advocates in the immigration world were against the bill. So I think they're in a platform now where I guess they could go back to that, but it wasn't a winning position already. And, the fact that, today is the anniversary of Donald Trump coming down the escalator and saying about Mexicans and other, which was his platform to get in the office the first time. Then he lost to President Biden. And then he came back with the same immigration rhetoric to rising through. Right now, when you look at the polls about what Americans care about, immigration isn't number one. It's like number 7 or number 6. But still, he's telling people, I'm protecting you from this boogeyman that doesn't exist. And I'm getting all these criminals and sex offenders off the street. So there's a little bit of problems that I think that the Democratic Party needs to work with is there is a mantra from the Republican Party right now that goes a little bit something like immigrants are rapers and rapists and murderers, and trans people are taking over the universe. And those two things together are like their super bomb. When trans people represent, I think it's like 0.05 part of the total population. And I don't know how many even play sports. Like what the total number is in the sports world, it is infinitesimal to even talk about. And and this sort of conversation that trans are coming for you. I don't even know where that platform is, and that parties that haven't seen it don't know it, right? Many people couldn't even identify or tell you a trans person if they knew one. Same thing with immigrants. Immigrants represent I think it's like 0.3 undocumented immigrants are like 0.3 of the population. And they're the ones who are taking your jobs when they don't employ you. They're the ones who are lazy, but they're also working on all of these jobs. They're the one who's getting all these social benefits that they're cutting in the first place. So tell me how that makes sense when nothing is really consistent. And then you have the president come out over the weekend after talking to his friends and saying, wait a minute, these immigrants are my good immigrants that keep my farm open. Don't take them. Take the other immigrants who are undocumented. So it's an inconsistent conversation that the Republicans are having, and it's all about boogeyman and fear, when in fact, I think Black people should realize the same thing they said about Black people. If you think about it in reality, the number of trans people and the number of undocumented immigrants that are harmful is so minuscule compared to the number of potential white nationalists that are harmful that we basically saw this weekend. So when you have those numbers and those comparisons, it looks a little bit different. And when you have all of law enforcement, right? You have all of ICE, you have the National Guard, you have the military, you have the FBI working on immigrants. What are they not working on?
That's
what
right.
happened in Minnesota.
Which was a crying shame. We also know the lawmakers reportedly say that ICE's parent agency, the Department of Homeland Security, is at risk of violating U.S. law if it continues to spend at its current pace. when I first read this, I thought, okay, so what you gonna do about it?
Mm-hmm.
Because Congress has been MIA, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you can say that to your blue in the face. What's the consequence? And if there is none, this is part of the problem, no?
So this budget is part of the repercussions of that, right? If this budget doesn't pass, we're gonna have a government shutdown problem that's gonna happen, right? So if you don't have Congress still has the purse. So if you cut off the money, or you start having mock hearings, which I think the Democrats should do better of, is having, they can't call a hearing because they don't have the body to do it within the House, but they can have tons of hearings in all of these local jurisdictions, or tons of hearings outside of the areas, call experts and read them in and not be in Congress, right? Have it televised. You can get tons of great speakers to do that. And the same thing on the Senate. You could do mock conversations and mock debates all over this country about solutions from your party that aren't happening, and also educate people on what's going on. Enough people aren't educated about the complexities of the House and the Senate and how the dough gets made, and they never worried about it before. But now's the time to worry about it. And while I think the numbers are so close, right? The numbers in the House are so close that if they had more of a unified voice, it would be useful. So, for example, with Mr. Padilla and his issue, you heard a lot of people step to the mic and say, that's bad. That's not America. This is totalitarianism, blah, 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 blah. Well, it comes back to what you said. So what are you going to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What are you saying? It's bad, saying, okay, great. I could have done that. I could have did that byline. What is the follow through on that? Well, okay. So Jamie Raskin says, so we want to know who the officers were who arrested him. What's the time frame on that? What's the will on that?
Yeah.
Right.
When we come forward, the Washington Post is reporting that the Trump administration is considering adding 36 countries to that travel ban list. A lot of those countries look rather familiar to me, and they may be very familiar to you, all of our leaders, learners, and listeners. We're going to get Allen's hot take on that and what we should prepare for in the coming months. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More with immigration attorney Allen Orr right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
The audience is listening. Thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. 38 people were arrested during the latest No Kings protest in Los Angeles, mostly for curfew violations. Black Mayor Karen Batts has this message after more than a week straight of protest.
My message as mayor is that I respect and honor our tradition here, which is we are a city of immigrants.
Since June 7th, over 560 arrests have been made and 12 officers were injured during protests against federal immigration raids. Thousands rallied in Chicago Saturday for immigration rights as part of a nationwide No Kings protest. Police estimate 15,000 attended with just one arrest. Meanwhile, President Trump says he'll ramp up immigration raids in sanctuary cities like Chicago. And a Black Lives Matter sign at Crestwood Elementary School in Madison, Wisconsin was vandalized with white paint. Designed by fifth graders in 2020, the sign is being cleaned and restored. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
It's a tough drive into the Cajon Pass. Earlier, brush fire and car fire north 15 past Kenwood. It's out. All flames have been extinguished. It's the two right lanes that remain off limits for cleanup. Huge delays from Foothill Boulevard on the 15 northbound, and the 215 northbound is slowing from the 210 to the 15 merge. Also, it's really a tough drive as you make your way through Diamond Bar. A wreck on the 57 northbound before Pathfinder's been cleared out of lanes. Delays from Tonner Canyon, and heads up in Garden Grove for some tire tread. 22 westbound at Euclid. It's been reported in the carpool lane.
Every day, a child in poverty waits for a sponsor is another day of hopelessness. There are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Just text the word radio to 83393.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man.
Although TV ratings for the NBA Finals are down 20% from last year, the pregame and postgame shows on ABC helped the NBA reach an impressive number after the first two games. With the pregame and postgame shows, ABC attracted a total of 25.6 million viewers for games 1 and 2 between the Oklahoma City Thunder and Indiana Pacers. The encouraging sign for ABC and the NBA is that people are tuning in before the games and staying around for the postgame coverage. The NBA is anxious to see what the combined ratings are after Game 5 tonight. OKC and Indiana are tied at 2-2. The Angels pitching staff has a tough assignment the next 4 days against the Yankees in New York. Yankees center fielder Aaron Judge leads the American League with a .378 batting average, 26 homers, and 99 hits. Judge is second in the AL with 60 RBIs. Good luck. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black. Keep following the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
The doctor's office that accidentally mixed up your files has your social security number. The power company that mistakenly cut your service has your payment info. And the hotel that lost your reservation has your passport number. You need LifeLock because your personal info is in endless places that can expose you to identity thieves. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai and delighted to be in conversation with my friend, immigration attorney Allen Orr. We've been talking about the state of the ICE raids and that budget crisis, but here is perhaps another crisis in the making. The Washington Post reporting that the Trump administration is considering adding 36 countries to a travel ban list, and what would be a significant expansion of the travel ban. This was announced earlier this month. Now, some of the countries you might be wondering, well, there are 25 African nations, including significant U.S. partners like Egypt and Djibouti. You might remember a couple years ago, I had a chance to travel to Africa with Vice President Harris, to Ghana, Tanzania, and Zambia. Well, guess what? They're on the list. And they're on the list for these really vague reasons. In this memo that was signed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he identified various benchmarks that these countries have to meet in the next 60 days in order to not land on this list. Reasons included the availability of citizenship by monetary investment without a requirement of residency, and claims of anti-Semitic and anti-American activity in the United States by people from those countries. Alan, what do you make of this leaked memo?
So I don't think the memo was leaked. I think it was put out purposefully. We knew it was coming, and I think part of it is also is in these new travel bans that took place last week. The administration learned from the prior court cases and tailored them in such a way that they were defensible in court, so that it wasn't all Black countries, all Muslim countries, blah 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 blah, and made exceptions for people with green cards, whatever, what have you. But in effect, it's hard to be this sort of Mark Rubio for things outside the United States, as we've seen with Mr. Grego's case, although he's back in the United States now. You know, the Secretary of State with foreign policy and the State Department is not subject to federal court review in general. And that's a Supreme Court decision from the prior year. Basically, they already said if a visa is denied abroad, it's denied. You have no recourse in court for an American citizen that was married to a foreign national that had some problems that they would not let him in. And so there was no redress for that person in the United States court. So, and we already knew that they're closing 8 embassies in Africa. It's a strong message about the type of immigrants they want to be here. You know, people listening to the show spoke about this before. So it's this programming that goes in with these sort of things that have never really been a problem before, right? It's like 1 in 33.6 million chance that someone from any of these countries is going to cause a problem in this country. But what it does is it turns off the tap and it tells people not to be here. So let's talk about what I spoke about with African students who were in the affected group of last year. So if you're on this list of countries and you're in the United States, now's not the time to travel, right? I would not travel at all. No need to put yourself subject to re-entry, because once you leave the United States, you're appearing for re-entry. Even with the valid visa, you should be able to get back in, but who knows? Maybe your social media has something anti-Semitic in it. I don't know. So, you know, I'm even saying that to green card holders. Now is not the time to be traveling, popping in and out. If you're involved in No Kings or you have any kind of social media footprint that's against this current administration, why subject yourself to that situation where you're going abroad? That's A. B, if you're abroad and you're in the case of trying to get a visa from one of these countries, you better get the visa soon, because once it goes into effect, you won't be able to get the visa. And if you have the visa, you'll be able to travel. But if you don't have the visa, then you won't get the visa, right? And that's all income for the State Department to sort of go through. And once you come to the United States and you have the visa, the same thing sort of goes through. Don't be popping in and out. Now's not the time to be going all the different places. And I even say there are 48 states, enjoy them. I wouldn't go to Hawaii or Puerto Rico in this atmosphere at this time, because I just wouldn't, right? Especially Puerto Rico and the number of Dominicans sort of mixing in with Puerto Rican and just the crackdown on immigration there. I just would not subject myself to any place where someone has the ability to critique your life and your social media. And maybe you just said, oh, it's horrible that Israel bombed, right? That's as much as it takes for an officer to make that discretionary decision. And then you're going to wind up fighting it from abroad. And so those are just some of the considerations. So nothing happens until it happens. Be vigilant, seek out an attorney. In almost every case, if you're in one of these impacted groups, know that your family members. So for example, students who are here, their family members can't come if they're graduating next year unless this ban's removed, right? Wow. That's the type of discretion you have going on now. So they're going to have to either go abroad or come back. So those are some of the decisions, the hard decisions that people are making. But more importantly, a travel ban has never solved for a solution in this country other than cutting down on tourism money and dollars. So with the World Cup coming here and the Olympics coming here, between the 3 continents, people are reconsidering if they're going to do anything in California with related to FIFA or to Miami even this last weekend, because why are you going to subject yourself to harassment when you're just a spectator who paid extra money to come here to spend your money in the United States to generate money for this economy when you can go to Canada or see something in Mexico? So in some ways, the president is hurting our tourism industry and our world footprint, because people who are, you know, there was a Chilean woman in New York who was arrested, who was here with her daughter visiting, valid visa, all the things. They just, you know, she didn't have to speak English. Not a requirement to speak English to visit and spend your money in the United States. Should not be, right? When we go to other countries, we don't speak their language and we still go spend money there all the time. So part of that's a confusion. So let me caveat for just a small moment and say, if you have been arrested by ICE or detained by ICE or by the military, the National Guard or the military, who do not have the impact to arrest or detain you in the United States under the current Constitution, your recourse is to find a lawyer and sue. And sue. Don't say it's okay and walk away. This is how we stop the craziness. You sue them. You find a lawyer, someone who will work on contingent, especially if you've been hired or whatever to pay for. There are codes against this sort of selective enforcement that they have. So you see them always arresting a black person, a brown person, someone who speaks Spanish, and they're U.S. citizens, and they say their documents fraudulent when their documents not fraudulent. You do the same thing the mayor of New Jersey's doing, and you go in and you file a federal claim. Now, you're not going to get your money tomorrow, but in almost every one of those cases, if it's true, there's going to be a settlement in those cases because there's no way to work around saying, why did you pick someone and why did you not choose their birth certificate? Not suing just gives them the recourse to continue going on. If you're harassed by an ICE officer and you're a U.S. citizen, after you get ready to go sue, you file a complaint with the federal government about that ICE officer. There's a 1-800 number, I don't know off the top of my head, but you call it and say, listen, this officer harassed me, and you give the details and then what happened. So there's a record of it so that it just builds the case for suing. When people walk away, it doesn't change the recourse of the actions that are happening to these people across the different boards and situations.
This
and
is
that's
all
what happen with some of these people who want to travel.
This is all really good information, and I'm sure our leaders, learners, and listeners are listening very intently. But again, when they encounter ICE officers, do ICE officers have badge numbers? What are some of the things that folks should look for? They should note, even when they're observing an ICE officer treating somebody badly. I saw a social media post of an ICE officer pushing somebody over onto the ground where they hit their head, right? And so if you're observing that and documenting that, what are some specifics that you should make sure that you make note of in order to build that case?
Do we need to do it when we come forward, or do you
keep going? Keep
okay,
going.
All right. So this is complicated because everybody's not an ICE officer right now, right? Some people are local people who are working, local judges, local Barney Fives, local officers that have sort of been recruited. And in some places, they have civilians who they're paying money to work in these situations to help ground people, to route up people. So if generally they will have either an ICE jacket or an ICE uniform on them, there needs to be policy after what happened in Minnesota with regards to if they can cover their face or not, and if they have to present their ID. In many cases, they are not presenting their ID because they say, I'm the operation of law, you're the suspect, you're the criminal, and I'm coming to get you. And there have not been many cases with regards to that. I don't argue with disputing against that. So if you are on the road and you are by yourself in some vacant place, follow the same rules you would with a cop. Turn on your hazard lights and go to a place where other people are. If you're in a situation and it feels off to you and you are not the person in the situation, meaning you're not the student, but you're the person standing next to the student, or you feel like ICE is operating, then take your camera out and film it for that person. That's what that's the job of the standbyer, is to record it and to be able to tell the story of the individual who may be being removed or was rough handled, or in your case, someone who bumped their head. You need a record of those things, and nothing stronger than a video record for always it happens. They will always say exactly what they said to Padilla. Well, you don't know what happened before, right? I mean, that's always the answer. You don't know what happened before. Well, it doesn't matter what happened before. Officers still don't get to be rough and rumbly with people. So regardless of what the person who you're arresting did, you still don't get to use excessive force with regard to them. And in most cases, like with the person who hit their head, they're complying. They're just being a little bit manhandling. So record it. You can ask for the identification. It's always better for me, and I've said this on the show before, to live through it, right? You don't want to have an argument. That is not the person to have an argument or a time with. It's better to live through that moment and be able to report it later on than to engage that person to give them a reason to put in the report, you were resisting arrest. I mean, pretty much what they said to Padilla, right? He's existing arrest. Where was he existing arrest? He didn't stop. Where did it happen? Why did you need to handcuff him when he was outside of the room? You've been on the Hill long enough, and I've been on the Hill long enough that there are tons, I mean, almost at every hearing, there are protesters. That's right. They take them out of the room and they let them go. There's no handcuffing going on. And many times they're still sitting in the hallway while the hearing's going on. So all of that foolishness doesn't make sense to me. And we need to be smart about these officers who are not trained for this. That's the other thing. The National Guard is not trained for doing internal enforcement. The military, for sure, is not trained for doing United States enforcement. So they don't know the constitutional rights of individuals, and they're not trained to be mindful of the Constitution when they're engaged. They're mindful they are to kill and protect the United States. So have all those things in your mindset when you're sort of dealing with those. But the best thing is someone record it, ask nicely. If they say no, that's just part of the record. Live through it, then make the record, and then if you need to, sue.
Alan, I'm going to ask you to stick with us just a little while longer. This is so good and there's so much helpful information to folks who are scared and don't know where to turn and don't know what to do. We're talking with Allen Orr. He's founder of Orr Immigration Law Firm, and he's dropping a lot of tips for us as we navigate these uncharted waters. ICE raids expected to ratchet up, not just in Los Angeles, but across the country. And you got to know your rights. And so more with Allen Orr when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Attorney advertising prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least like to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
During this time, it's important for everyone to know your rights. The 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments in the U.S. Constitution protects every one of us, regardless of immigration status. The 4th Amendment requires a judicial warrant to search your home. The 5th protects your right to remain silent, and the 6th gives you the right to an attorney. Just remember,
No warrant, no key. 556. You don't have to speak. No lawyer inside. Don't say a thing. Yeah, we all got right.
Hey, we all got right.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm here with Allen Orr, our immigration rights contributor. He's founder of Orr Immigration Law Firm. And right before the break, you were dropping so many helpful tips to help people know their rights and navigate, what feels like an onslaught of challenges related to immigration in this country. I want to go back to something you said about traveling. It's the summertime, and it's not unusual for folks to come to the United States on holiday or go to some of these countries that may find themselves on this travel ban. What guidance would you offer to people, who maybe they got their dual citizenship with one of these countries? There's certainly been a lot of people following the election that said, you know what, I need a plan B, right? What advice would you offer to people who have dual citizenship that, are looking to travel to that country in the coming months? You're on mute.
General dual citizenship conversation, because it's confusing to a lot of people right now. And it's really just a new policy by the Trump administration. If you are a dual national and you're flying to wherever, let's say Belize, and you have a Belize passport and a U.S. passport, you need to leave on your U.S. passport and come back on your U.S. passport. What many people will have done is they will book on their Belize passport. I think it's Belizean, I don't know. And then try to come back on their U.S. passport. And then at the port of entry, they're being denied entry to the United States for claiming that they're a nationality of another one. So just right now, until there's litigation around this, until it's confused, if you are a dual national and your home base is the United States, regardless of the entry to the other state or the other country, if you're booking a flight, you want to use your U.S. passport for whatever reason. And I don't know if some people get discounts. I don't know why people would use another passport. That's A. B, if you're on these banned countries and you're dual national, you shouldn't have a problem. But once again, you should travel with your U.S. passport. If you're a green card holder and you're a green card holder and you have DUIs, you were arrested 20 years ago for pot or pot paraphernalia, you had an altercation with a lover sometime in the past and you were arrested and you might have a record somewhere, it is not the time to travel under this administration. There are tons of people, and this administration has changed the way they talk about green card holders. They have now considered green card holders, and Kristi Noem said this last week, as visitors, not as residents of the country. And they will revoke your green card, and you will wind up fighting to get back into the country if you have anything on your record. So let's go through the most typical ones. Drug paraphernalia, right? Maybe it wasn't on your record. Maybe it was sealed. Maybe it was removed. Doesn't matter. Immigration doesn't remove the record. So maybe you were in high school. Maybe you were 19. Maybe you're 20. If it pops up in the system, you're not going to be able to enter. You're removable. Several DUIs. That's a problem. Altercations, whatever they may be, especially if it is a felony altercation, you had a knife or a gun or any of those situations that might have been expunged, comes up now on the record, you're going to have a problem. So if you have any of those background issues that might have potentially been a problem for you naturalizing in the past, you definitely is now not the time to travel. If you are a green card holder and you're involved in anything Muslim related or anti-Israel related, now's not the time to travel. Just not the time. If you work for a company, if you have to, that's great. That's fine. You absorb the risk. But what we're saying is it's not the time to travel. If you are able to naturalize and you naturalize in the future, then do what you want to do. But at this point in time, this ain't the moment. This is just not the moment because you're going to get categorized potentially on your social media. If you are a person who has those type of things in your social media, then what do you not want to do? You do not want to travel with your computer. Don't travel. Why are you going to travel with your computer with all the record that they can go through at customs? They can go through all your electronic stuff at customs, including your phone. So if you are that person and that's your activity, then you do not want to travel with the phone, right? Use a burner phone. Leave your phone here. Or if you have all those apps on there, delete them off your phone before you come back to the country and remove face recognition. In almost every student that was arrested, you see them take that person's phone and put it to their face to have them open the phone so they can sort of go through the recognition of what's going on in the database. So all of these things that I'm saying, I know there's a lot. On my Twitter, which is Allen Orr Esquire, I post things to think about when you're traveling abroad with electronic devices. It's an AILA, the American Immigration Lawyers. We put together these flyers to let people know what to think about when they're traveling abroad with electronic devices. When you are know your rights in general. If an ICE person shows up at your home and they don't have a warrant from a court, you don't have to let them inside. If they have a warrant from the Department of Justice, that's not enough to get into your house in any state. right? They can slip it under the door and you can see it. If it has a state on it, California, wherever, Chicago, wherever, and it has someone's name and the correct address, then that's the reason to open the door. Outside of that, you do not have to open the door. Never open the door. Ever open the door, right? Because once you open the door, you will allow them into your home. Much like vampires, they have to be invited in. So don't invite people in.
That's a good rule of thumb. Hey, Alan, in our remaining minute, one of the things that Mayor Bass of LA said in a recent interview is that there are entire sectors of our economy in LA that depend on immigrant labor. It's not just a story of LA, it's a story of a lot of cities across the country. Going into the summer months with lots of festivals and things, how do you expect this thing to go in terms of its impact on the economy? I mean, if you don't care about people, you certainly care about a dollar.
So it's already infecting. So the problem with these things is it doesn't happen overnight, right? You don't arrest a bunch of immigrants and then your tomatoes go up $10 overnight, but it's already happening. You're already going to see the increase, the bump in immigration. The same thing in construction, the same thing in yard work. So Representative Dan Crenshaw from Texas, got on television this weekend and said that they've removed close to 11 million people and wages are going up in all these industries. If you believe that, I have some land to sell you. It's all beautiful, all waterfront, and I can give it to you for $10,000 in foreign currency. No, it is not. As we discovered with COVID, that wages go up when people decide for wages to go up. And if Dan Crenshaw was concerned about wages going up and the minimum wage in Texas is $7 and some 25 cents, he would pass a bill to increase minimum wage across the country. So minimum wage clearly is an issue because there's no bill for it. You wouldn't be waiting for someone to do it. You'd be increasing it. And the concept that there are people, myself or you, they're going to go pick vegetables, right, at period, point blank, or lay concrete or weld, skills we don't have, is a fiction in our mind that's not going to happen. And no amount of money you pay people is going to make that happen or make it affordable. It is another way of increasing the cost of our everyday goods, period.
Our thanks to Allen Orr. Be sure to follow immigration attorney Allen Orr to know your rights at Allen Orr Esquire. I always feel just a little bit smarter every time you join us. I'm sure I'm not alone. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More in our next hour with very special guest, Phil Rosenthal. If you like Everybody Loves Raymond, and if you like you're going to like this new Netflix show that he has coming out. It's actually going to be premiering in its 8th season on Netflix starting this week. I'm going to tell you all about that, plus give you an update on the Diddy trial and Kendrick Lamar on Drake's turf in Toronto. All of that and more right here on KBLA Talk 1580. And More Perfect Union continues when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. 2 former Memphis, Tennessee officers convicted in the federal case tied to a black man, Tyree Nichols' death, were expected to be sentenced this week, but that's now been delayed. Tadarius Bean and Justin Smith, who are both black, were set for sentencing today, and Demetrius